Be ready to go.
Can you see my face?
Am I in the shot?
No? Why not?
Hello. Today my opponent and I will be debating the proposition that Vladimir Putin is more valuable to society than Donald Trump. I will be affirming this statement, arguing that Putin has more value to society than Trump. Before I get into the specific arguments as to why I feel this way, I'd like to express where I'm coming from. I acknowledge that both Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump are not perfect people, and as such they are subject to faults and unfavorable qualities. Knowing this, I do believe Putin, despite his faults, has an overall positive net impact on society. So I ask you to view the debate in context, recognizing that there will be negative aspects about both Putin and Trump. I think it should be noted that Vladimir Putin has an 86% approval rating as of May 6, 2015, with the Russian people, and he is the leader of Russia. I recognize that just because somebody does well in the polls does not inherently mean that they are a good person or have a beneficial impact on the world. However, I think it would be wise to know that if the Russian people support him, maybe we should too. And that he can't be doing everything, everything to that if he has a vast majority in the polls. Also, Putin helps safeguards the rights of the people around the world. Vladimir Putin projects an air of confidence and power which can help deter threats that would be targeted towards all of humanity. For example, Putin has taken a strong stance against ISIS, and as a result, Russia has had few problems from ISIS. Thus, Putin helps protect the rights of his people, which I believe to be a positive impact on society, as lives are saved and wars are prevented. Not to mention that Putin also helps protect individual freedoms by supporting women's rights, which he stated in the 2014 interview with CNN. Donald Trump, on the other hand, has made many sexist, degrading comments towards women. For example, Donald Trump tweeted that women should not be surprised if they are sexually assaulted because in his mind, that's expected of being a woman. He was also quoted saying, it doesn't really matter what the media writes about you as long as you've got a young and beautiful piece of ass.
Wow.
Which I mean is very disrespectful and degrading, of course. Not to mention that he has also said that women must be hot to be journalists. He's also claimed that women are gold diggers. All women are gold diggers, not some, all. I could continue, but what's the point? The message is clear, and that is Donald Trump is a sexist, misogynistic, a patriarchy sympathizer, and an otherwise terrible human being who has no positive impact on society. Vladimir Putin has, on multiple occasions, done volunteer work and donated to charities. One of the most popular examples of this is when he sang to children in St. Petersburg for a charity, which he still does routinely. I mean, think about it. When's the last time you have seen Donald Trump on the news for doing nice things for people? You haven't. Also consider that Donald Trump wants to ban an entire religious group from the country. And, I mean, that's a pretty negative influence on society, especially considering that it is somewhat likely that Donald Trump could come into political power soon. And with all with these misogynistic views, his discriminatory actions, there's no way he could have any sort of positive impact on society. Thank you. With all my constructive and I now open for cross-examination.
So you said that 86% of Russia supports Putin, correct?
Correct.
Well, were you aware that Putin jails people who oppose him so they can't vote?
I was not aware of that.
And then also you said that Putin supports women, correct?
Yes.
Did you know that Putin beats his wife and that he cheated on her? And did you know that he cheated on her while she was in the hospital recovering?
No.
Okay, I'm done.
I would like to.
That's just
Oh my God.
I gotta go to work.
Look, she said he beat Look, Naga, she got a nice piece of ass. I agree.
Wait, thank you.
Wait, Naga.
Good afternoon, everyone. While I admit to some of the points that the affirmative side has brought up, I, for good reason, believe that Vladimir Putin is not more valuable to society than Donald Trump. Like Nathan said, to say it pretty plainly, Mr. Trump and Vladimir Putin are both very faulted men, but Mr. Trump, regardless of the fact that he makes sexist comments about women, he has improved our society more than Putin ever will. As we covered in cross-examination, Vladimir Putin, Taylor Adam writes in 2012 for Business Insider that Vladimir Putin has put his long-suffering wife in a mental hospital so he could focus on his alleged lovers, former gymnast Alina Kabivand, his personal photographer Yana Lepikova. Sorry, those are Russian names. And then we also discussed in cross-examination, and Rob Coate wrote in 2015 in March, several billionaires found themselves in jail after questioning Putin or failing to bend to his will. Along with that, Putin is quite ignorant in a way that really hurts his entire country because he is the president of Russia. Al Jazeera wrote in January 2014, Russian President Vladimir Putin defended Russia's anti-gay law, linking homosexuality with pedophilia and saying that Russia needs to cleanse itself of gays. So he basically said, if you're gay, you're a pedophile, and Russia needs to clean themselves of you. Along with that, Putin sells weapons to murderers. Rob Coate wrote in The Richest in March of 2015, Bashar al-Assad, president of Syria, is a bad man. It's almost certain that he used chemical weapons on rebel forces who were fighting him in the Syrian civil war. Al-Assad is responsible for attacks on hospitals and medical workers, and before that, he had cracked down on ordering the killings of protesters who were decrying his rule. To top it off, and despite the fact that the group has murdered thousands of his troops in barbaric fashion, his government has also admitted to having dealings with ISIS, and Putin and his government sent this man weaponry. So, the president of Syria, who's killing his own people, is getting weapons from Vladimir Putin, the Russian president that we were talking about. And while Mr. Trump is certainly faulted, comments about a woman's ass all the time means nothing about her character, but he is empathetic in some cases. Mark Jacob wrote in 2015 September, quote, after Jennifer Hudson's mother, brother, and nephew were murdered in Chicago in October 2008, Donald Trump let the star and some of her relatives stay for free at his Trump International Hotel and Tower. She's a great girl, Trump said, according to People magazine, and we're protecting them well. So at least he does have the empathy, like, hey, this girl, her mom, brother, and nephew were all murdered. Like, hey, stay for free at a building that I can provide you a place to stay. Along with that, Donald Trump is knowledgeable in world affairs. Mark Hughes wrote in 2015, quote, Trump's business experience involves negotiations with business leaders and even governments around the world. He likely has connections behind the scenes that surpass those of simply purely political candidates. This gives him keen, realistic insights into economics in different parts of the world, as well as additional avenues to pursue trade agreements. So yes, he might be rude, but at least he's knowledgeable and he works with many other people. His communication skills are at least there. Along with that, I guess what was brought up in the affirmative constructive, Mr. Trump has donated money to many groups. In Look to the Stars in December of 2015, they said, quote, for example, Mr. Trump has donated to groups like Children with AIDS, Make-A-Wish Foundation, Mississippi Animal Rescue League, Paralyzed Veterans of America, Pediatric Epilepsy Project, UNICEF, and the Wounded Warrior Project. So fortunately, because he makes a lot of money, he is able to donate to these groups. That will end my constructive. I am now open for cross-examination.
So, Archie, you mentioned that in 2012 Putin put his wife in a mental hospital.
Well, she was hurt. Yes.
So, are you implying that there isn't a legitimate reason for that and he only did that to have affairs with other women, or that maybe she truly needed mental health?
Oh, I have no idea about her mental status. I just know that she was in the hospital and then he cheated on her while she was
Well, I
there.
mean, can't you suppose that Putin deep down was emotionally hurt by the mental trauma of his wife, and he looked for other places for love. I mean, you're making that a crime.
I mean, it is adultery that he was married to one woman and then he cheated on her with a gymnast and his photographer while she was in the hospital.
Thank you, that ends my question.
Thank you.
I love this.
Okay, so let's face it, both people have some bad things about him. Putin beats his wife. It's not that. It's not that.
We should avoid
Audience.
Like, you know. Everybody has their flaws, right?
Some people beat their wives.
Audience.
Some people beat their wives. I mean, not that big of a deal. Donald Trump, on the other hand, I mean, he wears like a toupee or something. His hair is terrible. I think that is just a crime in itself. You know, Archie's evidence from 2012 about Putin cheating on his wife. I mean, yes, I realize a person's history is important, but we're in 2015. You know, that's the past. People can change. Yeah, that's all I got.
All right. All right.
Wow, okay. Yes, actually, I fortunately have never been in, not fortunately, I have not been married, so I have not been beaten by my husband. But I feel like that's not, like, you know, a mundane mistake. I feel like that's probably not something you should do. I just am blown away by how horrible both of these people are. So with that being said, yeah, I think that Putin beating his wife says a lot about his character and the fact that she was in the hospital while this happened. It kind of goes along with how Dr. Seuss cheated on his wife who had cancer. Probably shouldn't do that. So, yeah, those two things I believe that are just not okay. And although he did cheat in 2012 with those two women, he still, in 2015, believes that his country should cleanse itself of gays and that all gay people are pedophiles. So that kind of says something about, though time has moved on, his opinion kind of seems fixed. Good thing about Mr. Trump, though, although he has, although he is sexist, he has saved a life. COSAR writes in August of 2015, quote, "In Los Angeles, an airline was refusing to help get a sick 3-year-old Jewish boy on a flight. Trump was called, and he immediately made his expensive private jet available. Mr. Trump acted to save the day, without hesitation. Commercial airlines refused to fly the child because he could not travel without an elaborate life support system, which includes a portable oxygen tank, a suction machine, a breathing bag, and an adrenaline syringe. Quote, Mr. Trump did not hesitate when we called him up. He said, yes, I'll send my plane right up. 29-year-old Harold Ten recalled shortly after he landed here Tuesday morning. Asked why he thought Trump made his private jet available, Ten replied, because he's a good man. He has 3 children of his own, and he knows what being a parent is all about, end quote. So, I mean, though yes, it's not difficult to get your private jet to go help someone, but the fact that he answered the phone and made it happen, that's a good thing. He might be sexist, he might have his faults, he might make fun of people that he shouldn't, but at least he was there when he needed to be there. And they're both pretty faulted, but I do commend Mr. Trump for saving lives, for donating money. They're both not good, but at least he's doing something to help us. Thank you.
Donald Trump saved one life. So what? That compares to nothing. It's nothing in comparison to what Putin has done. Again, I reaffirm what I said in my constructive, that Putin has an air of power, and he's a strong leader. He's an unchallenged leader in Russia, and as a result, they have not had many issues with ISIS. If he was not that, how many more people could have died in a conflict? So, again, Archie and I both agree on this, that both of these people are not perfect people. They both have issues. But overall, I think Putin has more positive impact on society. Whereas Donald Trump wants to ban Muslims from entering the country, he claimed that all immigrants coming from Mexico are rapists. I mean, that's just, you just can't do that. And I think he, in saying those things, has a negative impact on society. Regardless if he holds power, those sort of things divide people and it separates us, whereas Putin is a leader who tries to unify humanity. Thank you.
Man.
He doesn't
I don't know
want
who
to
I'm
ban
gonna pick.
Muslims. He wants to